guess it's time for me to tell you what time it is. Guess who's back? It's Kamish, back here with Week 2 previews. And Week 1 in the books. Last week we kind of focused on who had the better matchups and stuff. Kind of going to do that again, but also just some storylines now. So, the first one we got is Deuce Bombers. Snuck out a close victory there against Brian, taking on Steven in US1. A guy that's projected to finish perfect versus a guy who is projected to not win a game. So, I will say this, though. Ryan and Deuce Bombers was hammered by injury in Week 1. You got David Johnson going down. Malcolm Mitchell definitely hurts. US1, 0 points from his running backs last week. That's definitely not a winning formula when you have 3 running backs stressed and you get a goose egg on all of it. I gave Deuce the edge on every position in this one except kicker and QB. I have a feeling Gronk will have a huge game for Deuce in rebound from Week 1. And just the Jack Doyle watch for Steven in US1, a first rounder for Jack Doyle, putting up 5.70 points for Steven in Week 1. So, obviously, I got Deuce Bombers to win this one. Next one there, we got Drink AJ OJ Will Kill You and Sean taking on Saving Matt's Ryan and Glenn. I picked Sean to win this one. He's 1-0. Glenn, great showing for Saving Ryan in Week 1, but just fell short against a really good team, and he has a good team here too in Week 2. For Sean, finally gets that respect in the East. This guy's been here from the beginning, folks. 15th place best finish. Finally gaining some respect. Glenn, don't sleep on him. Like I say, good first showing. I think this matchup is actually fairly even. I gave Glenn the edge in quarterback and Sean the edge in running back, obviously. It'll be interesting for Sean, the storyline for him. First game with Jake Cutler as a starter. We'll see how that pans out. And for Glenn, like I kind of said on the message board, it's going to be hard to win in your grace year here. That's why the grace exists. Basically for you, next year you got to focus on your running back in the draft. And you admittedly said that Latavius Murray might go down as the worst pick this year. There's no doubt about that. Next up, we have Robert and Templars taking on Brandon and Wolves. Templars, big win. I mean, he is 2-time East champ, found a way to beat the divisional opponent. And then for Brandon and Wolves, tough loss there against a divisional opponent in Beelzebub. But again, another great showing. And I actually picked Brandon to win this one. For Brandon, again, he's a great owner. I hope he stays. You can see how competitive this guy will be. I think he's already found his running backs for the future in his first draft ever in the LOC. That's why the grace exists, folks. Question, though, Odell, will he be back for Templars? We don't know. At least at the time of this video, we don't know. Will Aaron Donald be back for Wolves and giving him a deadly DL tandem? Wolves, again, you got Dalvin Cook, Marlon Mack. This is the future. Templars, I think you need better flex. By better flex, I mean RWTs. The 3 you got dressed are horrible. And for me, it just comes down to who's selling. Is somebody selling? People are posting that they're selling already. Maybe you need to hit them up on a trade. Next up, we got My Ball, Zach Ertz, and John taking on Luke and Too Good for a Name. The battle of the shits, folks. 19th versus 20th, the 2 worst teams in this league as of this video. I still think John sold too early. Again, if you finish last place, John, you're down to tier 2. So you need to think about that. Luke, disaster so far, worst team in the league. Yes, right now you are even worse than Steven in US1. But for you, I got to think Tom Terrific will rebound against a pretty horrible-looking New Orleans defense. Le'Veon, another tough matchup, though, I think, against Minnesota. I think he struggles again. Injuries for you. You lost Jonathan Cyprin for the year. That one will be felt. But My Ball, same thing. Eric Berry went down. So, in this one, I think, in order for My Ball, Zach Ertz to pull off an upset, his IDPs need to win him the game. I think they need to have big games. Guys like Tyrann Mathieu somehow finding a way to put it in the end zone, play as playmakers. But I do pick Luke to rebound in this one and win that one. Next up, I got Susan Fighting Geese taking on Krista and Storm, the battle of the females in this one. For Fighting Geese, pretty good start for them. Top seed in the league already for Storm. Two key injuries that hurt. Allen Robinson going down. You just can't recover from them, especially at this time of the year where everybody's done the off-season trading. Like, I lost Meredith early, and I could pick someone up, but now everyone's a contender kind of still, so it's going to be tough to pick up players. And then, of course, there was the other injury there. I kind of lost my mind, or lost who? Oh, CJ Fedorowicz. That's who else also could be down for at least this game anyway. For both, you got to think, is Drew Brees and RW3 going to rebound? For Brees, I mean, a bunch of the older quarterbacks didn't look so good. RW3, I mean, it's tough for him. That offensive line is just horrible. In this one, decisive advantage at tight end for Geese and in the RWT flex. I think that's going to be the difference. Just way better depth. Top to bottom, not many weaknesses in Geese's lineup. And you know what? It's going to be a down year for Storm now with the injuries. Is this a team of potential sellers? So some people are still playing for survival, so something to think about. Next up, we got Joshua Shasha Heineken taking on Mr. Longyard and Ryan. The first new owner to get his first career win in the LOC was Ryan and Mr. Longyard this year. And I see him winning this one too, or at least I predicted him to. I'm sticking to the prediction time video. Ryan got his first career W. He's going to build off that. Joshua looking to compete still, though. I thought he put up a competitive fight. For him, it looks like maybe Alan Hearns might be of some fantasy value now. For Ryan, AP and Lacey couldn't have been more disastrous. Two bums. And two bums you just going to have to find a way to move on from. For Joshua, you got to look at that Texans defense. Obviously, always a high pick, but they didn't look so good. And I think for saving Ryan, I think Big Ben, again, has another tough matchup. That Minnesota's defense is really good. And for Joshua, will Stafford light it up against the Giants on Monday night? Those are the things to look for in that one. Next up, we got George and Pack Attack taking on Lucas and Green Lightning. I picked George to win this one in a shocker. I know Green Lightning has Elliott back. And obviously the injury to Woodhead will hurt George. Good news for George, it's not for the whole year. It sounds like it's only going to be 4 to 6. But again, Lucas now having Elliott for the whole year makes him an instant contender, I think. For him, he's got to look at, is that Pat's defense going to rebound? And against a pretty tough matchup in Breeze and the Saints. So that'll be interesting to watch. Maybe he goes Redskins. George, for him, you got to look at it. Is Eli Manning past his prime? I mean, he's missing some throws, but again, it might just be early season rust. Other thing I'm looking at, maybe these guys picked up some late waiver wire gems there right before the season started. I noticed Lucas got Ryan Grant, and George got Tommy Lee Lewis, and both of these guys look pretty good. Come to think of it, I think George might have even got Benny Fowler late, because I remember seeing his name on the board. So definitely good pickups for you and that one, George. But I think George just has better matchups, and I think that's the reason why Lucas is going to lose this one. So we'll see what happens in that one. Next up, it's the Battle of the Brothers. It's me versus my brother, Brian, the 12th man. You saw the career against each other. I'm a career 3-0 against him. He's right up there with Luke of just one guy I just need to beat. And I've been undefeated facing him anytime we've played. So, for me, again, did I found a beauty in Tarek Cohen? I thought, I was looking at him before the draft. I was like, this guy's could be the next Sproles. And here, lo and behold, he's doing pretty good. I also have Winston back this week. No more Scotty Tolzien. And then, of course, Kenny Golladay, I didn't even have him dressed. He pitched in 23 last week, so he's in there as well this week. And, for me, I need J.J. Watt to rebound. Obviously not the Houston Strong effort they were hoping for. And I think that's going to take a toll on that team by the looks of things. For Brian, obviously, it just comes down to Julia Jones and A.J. Green. They did not have a single touchdown last week, which obviously hurts his production because he is relying on those two, let's face it, guys, top 3 wide receivers in the league. So, for Brian, I'm looking at it, another tough matchup, really, for the Giants' defense, in my opinion. I mean, you saw Stafford. He's the highest paid quarterback player in the league, essentially, and 4 touchdowns. So we'll see how he does against the Giants. I do project myself to remain perfect against my brother in that one. Next up, I got the stinker of the week. Oh, yeah, and it smells. Again, I'm sticking with Monsters here. He might be on the stinker all season until we get to, where he's established. But as long as he's losing games and he's state-controlled, he's the stinker. Nothing against Milan in the 6. I do have Milan in the 6 projected to win this one. But the scary thing is I always see teams that get over 200 points. Those are the teams that are basically going to win that week. And Monsters was one of those teams. So, whereas Milan in the 6 wasn't. So that's something to look out for. For Milan, obviously, he needs Kirk Cousins to have a season like he did last year. I still think Milan has some pretty decent depth throughout the lineup, though. I may have underestimated him a bit, but it should be interesting to see. I mean, this is a must-win. And again, Monsters, he didn't have 7 players that were absolutely going to get 0 for sure for him. And if those guys were in, Monsters would have beat me. So, I mean, something to be aware of. He has some big playmakers, Diggs, Shady. These guys are going to put up big points. So, Monsters, even though he's state-controlled, definitely is not going to be an easy out. Now we get into the final game, fellas. It's the game of the week, and I think it's a beauty. The first meeting between these two teams ever. It's Chris and True North looking like, again, he looks like a contender in that North, a guy I picked to win the division. And Danny and Billsy Bob Tim Horton, a guy that I said would get a playoff spot. So again, I think this is a huge game between 2 contenders. This is the time of year where there's no teams on the bye. This is our best lineup and a good matchup to see where we really are at against each other. So I always like seeing these big games where it's 2 good teams. I look at this one, the storylines. It's going to be Rodgers for Chris and David Carr for Danny. Which one has a better performance? That'll be interesting to watch. The run game for Billsy Bob Tim Horton. I mean, last year I do remember people criticizing him for giving up what looked like a ransom for Melvin Gordon. But now we see that that's kind of paid off for him. He traded all his picks away, but still Melvin Gordon, look at how good he looked. We went and got C.J. Anderson. So Billsy Bob Tim Horton improved his keepers, and so far the strategy looks not too bad. I also look at Christian True North. Antonio Brown, this guy could win Christian True North the league. I mean, obviously I'm sticking to my prediction of Deuce Bombers, but True North, now with all the injuries to Deuce Bombers, looks pretty dangerous, and Antonio Brown looks like he's going to be a superstar. You saw the poll there. Chris got Cooper Kupp in the 18th round, and I know I had him on my list, and I must have just missed him. But Chris, give him all the credit in the world, picked him in the 18th round, and what a pick it's been. Obviously I felt I did pretty good getting Tarek Cohen in the 10th. And obviously you saw John. I mean, the reason why I put Fournette as the first pick was just because he had, those other running backs he could have picked, Delvin Cook, Marshawn Lynch. So that's why I went there. For Chris, there has to be a little bit of concern for his young running backs. So obviously you saw him build in the draft, try to get the running backs of the future because they're so vital in this league. But there has to be some concern at the point production there. In the end, I think this is going to be an awesome game. I think Chris and True North is going to pull it out. But I think it's going to be a great game to watch because both players have some really good, guys to watch. Guys like Rodgers and Carr entertain us every Sunday. So, anyways, I just want to say it felt good that this week was always shitty.